Mental health, like any other health, matters. And welcome, a very warm one, to the Tech and Cure podcast, where we talk all things mental health. Today, I'm very excited as October is Mental Health Month, and specifically the 10th of October, it's Mental Health Day. The World Federation for Mental Health has named 2024's theme as "It is time to prioritize mental health in the workplace." And today, I'm super excited to have none other than Melrato Sukwadi-Kabi, who is a psychometrist by profession, but she's going to tell us more about herself. Melrato, welcome.
Thank you, May. I am so honored to be here today.
It's so lovely to have you.
Thank you so much.
Tell us about yourself, who you are, and what you do professionally.
Okay. As you've mentioned, I'm Lerato Sukwadi-Kabi, and I am a psychometrist by profession. I've been in the game for about 12 years now. I think I started as a psychometrist in 2012. And I've mainly been practicing in Maseru, Lesotho, which is my home base, and I'm super proud. And apart from that, I found myself basically being in the human resources management space because of my training as a psychometrist. So that's what I do. I'm a consultant at Workplace Solutions.
Ah.
Yes.
What a perfect person and a professional to have, especially for this year's theme. Tell us more about Workplace Solutions. What do you guys do? What has your experience been, even just in the country here in Lesotho?
Okay, so Workplace Solutions is essentially a recruitment agency. We basically help candidates find jobs. We have a database of over 5,000 people looking for work.
Awesome.
Yeah. So we help candidates find work and also help our clients, obviously, to find the right people to fit their positions, various professions. And beyond that, we found ourselves having to do HR consultancy work based on the need of different clients. This was a developing thing, as you would put it, because as we would work with clients, they would just ask, don't you do this as well? Don't you do this? So luckily, my partner and I are trained in the HR sphere, so we are able to offer a lot of the services that they ask for. So to put it briefly, Workplace Solutions offers recruitment services, HR support, various trainings, and we also work with external consultants for some of the trainings that we personally can't offer. Yeah, that's what we do. One of the things that has been introduced, which I know my partner is excited about, or I also am, is POSH. We call it POSH. It's prevention of sexual harassment in the workplace. A lot of people are sexually harassed in the workplace, unfortunately. But they're too scared to even mention such things because in most cases, it's people in a position of power who do such things. So these are just some of the things that affect people's wellness at the workplace. And we'd like to highlight that, amongst other things. As we'll be talking, I'll mention some of the things that I think corporations or organizations can do to combat such things and to help people be in a mentally well place. Yeah.
I think that's such an important area to focus on, because these are things that are usually swept under the carpet and we hardly talk about them. But I think it's important for employees and every single individual just to be empowered, at least to know what is it that I can do to be able to deal with whatever challenges that may be there, you know, in an organization. Just banking on what you've just said in relation to having to pivot. I remember just in the private practice, when I started, I used to think, oh, I'm going to offer individual, for example, psychotherapy in terms of what I do as a counseling psychologist. And in an area where I was in West Africa at that point in time, I realized that most of the clients wanted psychometric assessments because either students needed to be placed in schools, whether they're going to a different country, a different continent. And I found myself having to say, okay, how do I get now more psychometric assessment tools to be able to pivot and go where the client would. I mean, it's part of business, it's part of, you know, providing what the client needs. So in relation to psychometric assessments probably that you offer, what are some of the, I know you mainly talked about recruitment, and I know in industrial psychology sphere, mainly it will be specifically for recruitment purposes as opposed to more clinical assessments that we use, for example, in a clinical setting. Talk me through workplace psychometric assessments, just a few of them, if you could mention what are their benefits and how do you usually go about it in general?
Okay. This is my area of expertise, so you'll have to stop me if I go at length. I absolutely love psychometric assessments, mainly because of what we can benefit from them. There's so much that we can benefit, and particularly in the workplace. I'll take it from recruitment, as you say. You know, we spend so much money and time to look for the right person to fill a position. So it's true that we may know people's experience based on what they've written and perhaps their references and their qualifications, but having a picture of the person as a person, an individual, brings so much light because sometimes people aren't necessarily suited for a position. They may have studied things that aren't actually suited to who they are. Ufumane Moto is so frustrated in the job because it just doesn't speak to them. I know, for example, my mother is an accountant, but naturally she says it's not her thing. So she could have been happier in a more social profession, perhaps talking to people more than typing away numbers. So psychometric assessments help in immediately identifying who the right person is for a particular job. That's one. Two, they help in mapping career paths for people because sometimes you find yourself, okay, I'm already in this career, but what do I do now to be more aligned to what suits me best and what will work for the organization as well? So they help identify strengths and weaknesses, your traits, your behavioral patterns in the workplace, and then help you to navigate how best you can structure your work in a way that benefits both yourself and the employer. Further to that, it goes now to team dynamics, putting the right people together. Sometimes we wonder why teams aren't working, why there's always conflict, and it boils down to just personalities clashing, values not being aligned, motivating factors being different for different people. So when you have insight into what motivates people, what their makeup is, it's better to put people together based on what works. It's like wheels that are just put together to work. So this obviously just helps in reducing the amount of time that is lost because people are demotivated, absent from work, the high turnover of people, and ultimately saves the organization time and translates into happier, more satisfied people. So those are just some of the benefits of psychometric assessments. There's a range of them available. We have aptitude tests. Those ones basically assess your mental horsepower. There's no two ways about it. It's either you know this or you don't. Those are more towards your intelligence assessments. And then we have personality assessments. They can look into your behavioral styles, your traits, what motivates you, your values, and what frustrates you. Those are helpful not just for the work setting, but also help you in your personal space to know what works for me. And sometimes it's so funny. The other time I looked at my personal profile analysis, and it made sense why I didn't get along with some people at work. Then, yeah, everything just came together. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. That makes sense. And there's no better feeling when you understand or when your feelings are qualified by something that's written on paper. It's just amazing how they manage to capture the essence of a person. Yeah. So there's those. And then there's emotional intelligence assessments as well, my favorite. Hey, Melebo, emotional intelligence. It's honestly one of those things that are probably more important than even your intelligence. Yeah. Because for you to be functional in society, you need to be able to manage relationships. How do you manage relationships? By getting along with people, knowing how to navigate certain relationships based on a person's character. So it helps when you know which areas you need to work on. I know I'm an assertive person, so sometimes I need to learn to tone down a bit in my interactions with different people, even though it's a predominant aspect of who I am. But when I know who I am, I know how to balance things. So, I could go on and on. But I think just another type of assessment that we have leadership assessments. These are assessments that identify the potential of leadership in a person. So there's different traits that are assessed that make up what a leader should be. From there, it's your diagnostic psychometric assessments, which you are more privy to. You probably know more than I do in that area. But I think that's about it as far as psychometric assessments go. There's obviously your technical assessments, but those are more for your technical professional tests, which we don't really do much. But that's in a nutshell what we offer and what's available out there.
Wow, that's really good and very elaborate and bringing so much awareness.
Yes.
I liked it when you said every time you do psychometric assessments, especially at a personal level. I've had the same experience. Literally, it feels like you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're like,
things start making sense.
Exactly. And I think also it's very helpful just to be able to, I know people sometimes look at the report of the psychometric assessment and think, oh, remember, this is what the psychometrist or the psychologist says I am. But we always have to be mindful that the reason the report is there is just to be able, of course, to bring awareness, but also just to be able to say, yes, this is how people may see me. These are the characteristics of this particular personality. If it's a personality assessment, for example, but then areas for improvement, because I think also it brings a spotlight into those areas that I need to work on and improve on, and at the end of the day, overall I become a better person and a better organization.
That's so true.
Because it saves an organization a lot of resources going forward.
Another thing I just want to mention, there's such a misconception that people fail psychometric assessments, especially when they're in the recruitment process. Goodness, I just wish I could announce on top of a hill that you cannot fail a psychometric assessment. It is purely a guide, and a reflection of who you are as a person. Obviously, we are not perfect. people have strengths, they have weaknesses. Just like you mentioned now, there's areas of improvement, and you are not going to fit every role that you apply for. So it's good for you to know which roles you're best suited for and work towards those.
Exactly.
And in fact, I always encourage for most of our candidates, after a recruitment exercise, we encourage them to come back so that we talk through the report with them, for them to have a better understanding of what the report said about them and how they can work on improving whatever area that they need to. But we don't fail psychometric assessments. They just point out where we are strong and where we are weak. But for aptitude tests, yes, there are right and wrong answers. So in that area of measuring cognitive capabilities, then yes, we can say you're not so strong mathematically, you are stronger in verbal reasoning, and so forth.
I think that's really important, just to be able to highlight that, because I think out of maybe desperation to get a job, one may even want to find a way to maneuver around, which is not helpful, because you want to be in an area where you're suitable. It's best for you as an individual, but it's also best for the organization at the same time. So that is very important. Another thing that is really good and important that you talked about when you talked about emotional intelligence scales and assessments, very important. Even back in the days, we used to think IQ is everything. I mean, it's good to have engineers who can build bridges, people who pass with cum laudes and summa cum laudes. However, without emotional intelligence, you cannot be able to pass on that knowledge. And at the same time, there's, like you said, it's difficult to be able to work with people. We always say even to parents that, for example, when you have gifted children, that you want them to progress and even get to varsity and finish in record time, or even beyond, you know, we always say that's good that they're gifted, but at the same time balance it off with personality,
social
and
skills.
Exactly, maturity. Are they even ready to be in that environment? Because that can make or break.
Oh goodness, I might just go off tangent, but it's one of the things I was discussing with a friend the other day, that I'm so concerned about this thing of shortening the years that children go to school, because they end up going to varsity with minds that are not mature enough to handle the pressures of society. And I think it's one of the things that's just going to lead to more mental illnesses or issues. But that's a chat for another day. It's just important that when programs are put in place, that we will look at how they affect us mentally, because honestly, it's becoming a pandemic, how people are just ill. That's very important. And I guess to the institutions, to the parents also, because it's our responsibility as the parents, it's very important to be mindful of those, so that at least when we make decisions, we make informed decisions at the same time. I think in relation to the psychometric assessments, to the now organizations, I think it's important from the ethical point of view to say we never use psychometric assessments to be biased, to segregate, to judge. We need to be able to know that we use them for the purpose that they are meant for. And if they are done at the personal level, if it's, for example, if it's recruitment purposes, I believe the results usually are going to the organization. But if it's for personal exploration, as an individual employee, as a client, I have to know that it is my right to choose to disclose or not. But at the same time, when I choose to disclose, that those results have to be used effectively for the benefit of everyone, instead of being used against me instead. That is so true, Melibu.
So that's so important.
So
I'm wondering what your experience in corporate Lesotho has been like.
It's been a roller coaster ride. You know, when you go to school, your greatest desire is to go learn and come back to empower your society with whatever skills that you've acquired, skills and knowledge that you've gained. So coming back was no question for me. I came back, tried to be employed, but it seems it wasn't for me. God has always just directed me towards consultation. So I've been a consultant for the better part of my life, and my experience of the corporate world has been from that angle. What I've noticed, or what saddened me the most in my experience thus far, is that Basotho have a struggle in uplifting each other. It's changing slowly, but it's a culture that we are not raised with, especially in the corporate world. You'd find that organizations would rather go to our neighboring country to get psychometric assessments when we have psychometrists or psychologists in the country who are more than capable, who were actually trained in that country and know what it is that they have to offer.
And knows the context and our culture even better than somebody who's coming from outside.
Exactly. So it's been a very sad experience in that regard. But slowly the doors are starting to open, even though it would be nice for them to open up a bit more and at a faster rate. From there's a lot of gatekeeping. For you to be able to get work, you need to know the right people. It's true that it's almost like that everywhere in the world, but with Lesotho being such a small country, you'd hope that we are all just open to supporting each other without having to know whoever who's at the top. But like I said, it's slowly changing. The culture is slowly changing. The systems are slowly changing and opening up more room for consultants, Basotho consultants, to offer what it is that they have to offer. But on the positive side, I would say more on the recruitment aspect of things. It's so gratifying when you see the people that you placed in different organizations just thrive, seeing them grow from strength to strength, and always being appreciated when you meet up with them, saying thank you so much, the tips that you gave us, because when we place people, we don't just say go out and do what you can. They basically become part of our family. We encourage them to come back and always report how it's going and support them when they feel like they don't know what they're doing. So it's like a relationship that's built. So it's been gratifying to see people grow in different professions, and the client happy is always the best feeling ever. So you become a part of many families in the different organizations. That's a nice part about what we do. And apart from that, we've done a few trainings. We hope to do more, but I think that's an area where most organizations are willing to open up their doors. But as far as HR, I think they're not so willing to outsource the services, which is what we offer. But they always come back to us, funny enough, because the work we do is administrative, time-consuming. So we take that burden away from them. And when they see that, you know what, we don't have time for this, they're always calling us, and that's when we chip in. So I'd say it's been both positive and negative, but we could do with more support from the organizations, and particularly in the private sector, because that's where they have more control of their systems and whether or not they take outside consultants. But one thing I've noticed also is that our big corporates tend to say head office is where the decisions are made, they can't do certain things locally. I'm like, really? Please just review these procedures and processes, because you can't be getting people from outside to do what local people can do for you.
But it's encouraging to hear you say it's gradually changing. Because I think also in the past, for example, in our context, there weren't a lot, if any, psychologists, for example, in the country. So I guess organizations had to just take whatever they could, and if they wanted quality and qualified registered professionals, they would have to cross the border. But now we are saying we have professionals in the country. Now we are here. You know, of course, any other client is at liberty to be able to choose the consultant that they want to work with, depending on their needs. But I think also it's because probably a lot of organizations have not known, but platforms like this hopefully are going to give us an opportunity for Lesotho to know what we currently have in the country that they can make use of. Because we can't, for example, go to South Africa and do the same. We have to be registered with HPCSA, but when they cross, they're not registered with the Medical Council. Those are some of the things that I know the Medical Council is working hard to correct and make sure that we standardize the professions within the country. That's really exciting. And this makes me also think about employee assistance programs now for organizations probably that you have worked with. What has your experience been in relation to the EAPs?
You know, Melebo, in all honesty, the organizations that we've worked with, I can't think of many that have employee assistance programs. Only one or two come to mind, but it's a culture that I know is more appreciated or practiced abroad. It's true that we do have some organizations locally, and what I do know of the programs that are in place is that they offer psychological service support. They basically try to combat your stress, your anxiety, or other health and mental health related issues by making services readily available to employees. I know that some have a helpline, although it operates from South Africa. They have a helpline where they can call and state whatever it is that is troubling them, either it's personal or professional related. But they're open to just share, and where necessary, they are then referred to external professionals like yourselves for further consultation. From there, they usually incorporate your physical wellness aspect. They encourage gym membership, or even sometimes invite people who help them out with aerobics. And I think that's about it. I know it's mainly to do with physical fitness and your counseling services if one feels the need for those. That's as far as I know about employment assistance, employee assistance programs.
And I think it's important to highlight so that the organizations may be aware and kind of like know what a comprehensive, program would look like, and explore different options that are out there, just to be able to see what would be suitable in for them in their context. That will be very important. But I'm glad that this year's theme is really highlighting that it is time to prioritize, mental health in the workplace in general. I'm wondering what your message would be, your mental health message in general, incorporate. I know earlier on we talked about harassment, for example, which is just one element of some of the challenges that may be there. But what would you say to organizations? What would even if it's not a comprehensive employee assistance, but what would you say to organizations that are out there thinking, we really want to work on ourselves, we want to do better? Maya Angelou always says, when you know better, you do better, you know. So what would you say to them just so they can know better in order to be able to do better?
Sure. You know, as an individual that has experienced mental illness situations around me, I can honestly speak from a place of conviction. First, when you have mentally unwell people around you, one way or the other, it's going to affect you. I've experienced this in my personal life. I've experienced it in my work life. And it just goes to show that we need to do all we can to support each other to get to a place where we are mentally healthy. Work is where we spend most of our lives.
True.
Probably 90% or more. And if we do not make our workplaces a healthy environment for people to work in, then we are bound to all suffer. We are bound to suffer. People will fall ill frequently. That will translate to absenteeism. That will translate to performance issues. That will translate to the company just losing money. Because we're talking about the workplace, we need to make it a reality for people to understand what it means. It's time that we are louder, we are more vocal about what mental health is in the workplace. We cannot afford to be turning a blind eye when we see that someone is suffering in the office. Where you can contribute or change the status quo, you need to act. Talk to whoever you need to talk to, but make sure that something is done to avoid people being mentally unwell. From the organization's perspective, I think for them it may appear as if they now have to invest money into all these initiatives. But in all honesty, organizations are losing so much more right now because people are not well taken care of. So it would save them more than they could possibly imagine to take care of their people. Let's be preventative more than act afterwards. Messaging in offices. Your HR offices now have to take stewardship about this mental health. I think that will mostly fall on them, but the leadership in its entirety have to make sure that this is a culture that is built, if it doesn't exist already, where people's mental health matters. And just start small by supporting employees in whatever manner that you can. If we can only start by having conversations with them in the HR office, then so be it. Then gradually incorporate the programs where you can invite women psychologists to just educate people and empower them and let them know what's available to assist them in dealing with the stressors of life, because the stressors are not going to go away. There will always be demands from home, from work, our personal relationships with friends and so forth. So it's really helpful to know of the services that are available out there for us to be better equipped to manage the stresses. So in closing, I think, I'd just encourage the organizations to act honestly, to just act. We've been talking,
Yeah.
but not acting enough. It's really high time that we start acting and making sure that people are well taken care of, and that will lead to just the society being a healthier society in totality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you've had it from the horse's mouth, a professional who has been in the working space and bringing workplace solutions. We really hope that this episode has been so informative and so helpful. Like the Mental Health Day theme says, for 2024, it is indeed time to prioritize mental health in the workplace. It is time not to just talk, but like Melrato said, it's time to start taking action. And hopefully that will bring about very positive change in our work environment. Thank you so much for your time and for listening. We'll see you in the next episode.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Melrato.
Thank you, May. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.